So today, I'd like to recap. There's been so many things that have happened since my last video that I'm up many a nights ready to address so many things. Some of them even more important than this one personally to me, as in addressing its impact. But I think this one to me a little bit brings the convergence of a lot of issues that are going on together. For example, the abortion issue, race. Like my governor going down the list, the hit list of saying, hey, what makes you popular on the right? Did CRT. Nobody knows what grades their kids make on their CRT class because you look down there and there's algebra and biology. Oh, Johnny, you got a C in TR? No, they don't have CRT. But hey, here it is on the high priority list for people who control their own predominantly white school districts. Fund them, separate them, move to separate suburbs so that none of the money goes to anybody else. And they're worried that there's a CRT class. High on the list. Next up, gay issues. Again, conservative white, rural red community. And you're worried your child isn't going to learn from the teacher. What they're going to learn from is their second grade friend who has a party, and they go to the house and find out they have two mothers. You know, all the efforts are spent trying to be regressive, trying to undo everything, trying to stop votes, trying to shut everything down and take us back to this mythological period that never existed, and the bad ones that did exist would not be described as great. Not for me anyway. I don't know if I'd pick, Jim Crow, slavery, segregation, being beaten and castrated and burned and have my children and wife sold off and chattelized, not being able to vote. Oh, that's about where we are now. So I don't know when this great was. Great is kind of in the future, but I guess it's all relative. There was a time where a segment of society had all the levers of control, which they still do, dominating all of industry and government as white males, in case you didn't catch on to that. But of course, because everybody else is expressing their grievances, they have the power and the means to light up entire networks to make themselves the victim. So there's no shortage of talking heads to say, you know what the hardest thing is out of all of Earth? Be a white male in America. No, not some villager in Uganda, not somebody stomping rice or carrying water back in on their head in China. It's being the top group in the top country on Earth. You actually need to be focused more on how hard it is to be in the most dominant group on Earth. So, hence the belly aching. So I want to bring this particular issue around to abortion. Now, of course, the left is reaching and saying, hey, this is going to affect minorities the most. It's going to, because they know the right is hypocrites. They're all for kids being born. They're just saying, hey, I just had that baby that I didn't abort. So, like I said, I didn't want to have it because I didn't have any way to take care of it and things like that. Go ahead and have it anyway. And they won't support tax dollars going to anything to keep the baby alive once it's here. They're against all of the entitlements, unless they're corporate. Then they can't write checks big enough for government defense contractors or anything like that. But, if it's that mother who didn't have that abortion, needs to stop having so many kids. Well, she can stop having kids either by not getting pregnant, which is, I'm sure, your goal, but people being people, she may just, and if she does, the only way to not have a kid is have an abortion, which you're also against. So I'm not terribly concerned about its impact on minority women because the disparity for letting black people die in medical situations to this day is going nowhere, right? So like Roe has been in effect pretty much my entire life, and black women are still allowed to die. So Roe was not some complete salvation for black women. Will more black women probably die due to this? Unfortunately, yes. But it's better to have the direct fight and come up with a permanent solution than trusting the goodness of the Supreme Court or the ability of the right to compromise and be reasonable. They can't be reasonable on guns. They can't be reasonable on abortion. So all the liberals, Bill Maher, Joe Biden, that whole old white guy ilk, liberal classic, you've outlived your time. You're going to go over there and talk some sense into him. How's that going? You got to reach out to him. How's that going? He reached out. Biden did an excellent job of reaching out. And so Trump lost because Republicans said, Republican congressman, Republican senator, Trump, Biden, don't fuck me on this, Biden. And they let him alienate the progressives and the far left. And he did. And then they called him a far left socialist radical anyway. That's the lesson for you to learn. They're not going to distinguish between you and Bernie or Elizabeth Warren or AOC or Ilhan Omar. Even though you're doing as little as possible, you're saying defund the police is not an answer, all this type of stuff, even though you're doing whatever they say and trying to compromise with them, you haven't successfully reached anyone on that side. They're not interested in compromise. I watched Kevin McCarthy talk. He said, when I'm speaker, we're gonna help. We're gonna lower the price of gas. You're in Congress right now. You could work to help your constituents today. Just reach across the aisle, sign something that would allow your constituents, but you want your constituents to be in pain and point that at the Democrats. And you're chugging along just fine because you could just say gas prices to the polls. But those 3 Supreme Court justices got in the way. And they're just as tyrannical and autocratic as Trump and DeSantis or whatever else. And they couldn't stop chomping at the bit. Down with this right, down with that right, down with this right. And now all of a sudden a deflated Democratic base who was unhappy that the Democratic machinery got rid of all of the candidates that we wanted and got somebody to force progressives to stay home while enticing traditional Republicans to vote for him. It's like, well, that's y'all's president. I mean, he's basically the Republican president. But Republicans don't want him. But the mainstream Republicans are done with Trump. Fox News called Arizona. Rupert Murdoch is done with Trump. It's over for Trump. There's no Trump left. There was never any Trump. And I think many of you are missing that. There was a radical right that's always been there. And he was a protest vote. He spoke to the way they wanted to believe it. I live here in this trailer in rural nowhere without a single minority in sight. Why haven't I got off my ass and made something myself as a white person? The border. The border. I'm sorry, sir. What country does Wyoming border? What country does Kentucky border? What country does West Virginia border? Oh, none? Okay, so what's that got to do with you getting off your ass? Why don't you move some of those wrecked cars out of your front yard? Get a haircut, right? Same advice that you give to the inner city about bootstrapping it. Somehow, when it's white people, they're hurting. Black people are hurting. Well, there's opportunity out there if you want it. You just got to go get it. This is not for you to have a handout. But someone goes to talk to them. Everyone else is to blame for your pain. CRT, the gays, and the border. 3 things that have nothing to do with your fucking life. I can drive around in every red county in this state. Oh, don't say gay is done. Ban on CRT is done. You any richer, dumb cracker? You're not? You're not? You still don't have shit? Oh, gas is high? Almost as high as it was under Bush? Uh-huh. Yeah. What happened? Well, if Trump was in there, Trump was in there. You have a wall? No. Pedophile ring gone? I mean, that was to get that done. 4 years. Did it get done? No. You know what got done? Corporate tax cut, and which was made permanent right away, and the Supreme Court justices. That's all the Republicans wanted from you. There's not enough of them to win the vote. They can feed you some red meat, pretend they don't blame you for your problems, which they do. And you went out there like a sucker. Trump's understand us. A New York real estate magnate understands you? Why? How? What does he understand about you? What does he understand about you? They have those rallies. They're self-aggrandizing rallies, and you think they're about you. I hear you. Nope. He turns on everybody that realizes the truth. That Trump is about Trump. But you're all satisfied. I mean, at this point, isn't the pedophile ring exposed already? How's that still a thing? How is any of this still a thing? You didn't want the statues torn down. That's history. But if your children learn about slavery, it's indoctrination. Indoctrination is the country that black people live in. Confederate statues everywhere, schools named after Confederate generals and slaveholders and on our money and everything. That's indoctrination. In middle school, my mascot was the Generals, and I grew up in Tennessee, so it wasn't Grant. And in high school was the Rebels. That's some indoctrination for you. Nobody thought anything of it. My daughter graduated from that high school. But if your children learn that slavery happened, you need to protect them. Shame on you. Anyway, our main subject, I said I had a bunch of videos to make, just kind of encapsulated several of them into that small little rant there. But let's talk about how abortion eliminates the white race. There's a theory out here that, of course, Roe is to protect the white race. The abortion of Roe is to protect the white race. Now, I lived in Canada, and Quebec was trying to preserve French, paying mothers or women to have kids, and they've offered that as a solution here, but they don't want to do it because, of course, you have to pay everybody. So, since most abortions are by white women, if we can slow the tide of that, we can slow the tide of the demographics. Now, I'm not supposed to be belly aching that I'm on the shit end of the stick for the demographics, because America's a fair and just place full of meritocracy and a democracy. Yet, my counterparts are wholly paranoid and terrified of being in my seat right now. They're more paranoid than I am. I'm living through it. And if you may, or your great-grandchildren may be in the spot I'm in right now, and you're sounding the alarm. My children and grandchildren have been born into a spot that terrifies you for your family. Here's why no abortions will finally finish off the demographic shift. One, schools are already integrated. For the first time in history, white students are outnumbered. Doesn't do anything for me. Black people still like 13-14% of the population. You just see other, and that's enough for you. But they're still other to me. I'm not Arab, I'm not Asian, I'm not Hispanic. Everybody else is other to me. Then in that case, there's 87% of the population that's other to me. So the fact that you'll still be down to 50% of it, while we'll be hovering around in the teens, I can't feel sorry for you. But since the schools are already integrated, the initial fear that you argued from school integration, the reason the one-drop rule exists, is because of interracial dating. You won't be able to go to the mall or the grocery store, probably know where you live, no matter where you live, and not see a white mother, white biological mother of some biracial children. So even if white women don't have abortions, there's nothing to say they're going to have white children. And since you instituted the one-drop rule to create slavery, people can come here and become white except the descendants of white people. For example, you want to stretch the mythology of Western Europeans having anything to do with the Bible, ancient civilizations, and whatever else. So the franchise has been extended to Italians, North Africans, all kind of people are becoming white. Light-skinned Hispanics, dark-skinned Hispanics. But the descendants of Thomas Jefferson, black. Seen Obama's mother from Kansas? Where's Obama? Black. So if you're a descendant of a white person in these United States, you're black. If you're an African with no Western European ancestry whatsoever to speak of, you're white. I mean, I think they're white. Iranians are white. Moroccans are white. But if Susie Mae the hillbilly from West Virginia has a baby with Tyrone, the kid's black. And white women are out of their mind because a rule that was set up because all the white men were procreating with black women during slavery and did not want to see those children have their rights is now coming over into modern times in voluntary relationships. And they're going, why aren't our kids white? They're just as much white, if not more white, since black people are a tenth to a third to a half white themselves. So wouldn't the kid be more white than black? Yes, but we have a one-drop rule, which confuses black people every time we have to argue about Egyptians. What just happened? Well, you know, they're light. They had a... Hell, we're mixed up. And I'm fresh off the boat, Negro to you. But some ancient African on the east coast of Africa who hadn't had any contact with a European ever is white to you. That's one way. That's a big part of it. Secondarily, it's economic. The right wing has always been hypocritical about it. They're still going to ship their daughters to another state, send her out of the country, say she went to boarding school, same old shit they used to do. Not to shame them at church, not to shame them in the community. She's getting an abortion. They're going to take her to visit a sick aunt, go stay in a hotel for a couple of nights, book the abortion in their blue state, and come back home. That's going to be predominantly white people who can afford to do that. White liberals who already live in states where to be open, and white right wingers who can do it. Black women, Hispanic women, poor white women pregnant by black guys will be stuck producing their black and brown children. So you might have shot yourself in the foot saying if you stop abortions, because just like your argument for guns, like that's not going to stop violence. This doesn't stop abortions. One, they rolled it to the states. More states are going to turn blue with the demographic change. They're going purple, then blue. And since it'd be up to the states, they will simply allow it. The federal government will be more blue. They may do the federal lands, they may do all kind of stuff, because nobody's for abortion. The rest of us just aren't hypocrites. To leave people in a lurch, that doctors are afraid that they make a medical judgment to end a pregnancy. It can be that if a woman is afraid and unable to do it, or her state doesn't allow it under the heinous circumstances that her pregnancy happened under, they're afraid to refer her somewhere. And so we're all about protecting the life of the unborn, but you got to take some interest in the born. And until you can balance that reality, like you want me to understand guns don't kill people, you need to understand nobody is for abortion. But if you want to negotiate right now, this is the best time to negotiate. Encourage your congressmen, your senators, and everything else not to block the law when it comes through, because it's going to go through at some point. You're either going to keep rallying the left until it becomes this federal mandate, and if the Supreme Court tries to overdo it, and it'll be stuffed with 10 more Democrats. That's what's going to happen. This is what your concern is. The power is not with you, and you're trying to enshrine it, you're trying to gerrymander, you're trying to stuff the court, but we're like you. We don't care about all of that. If it's not working for us, we won't participate. Remember, you didn't think your kids should have to wear a mask, or your business should have to close, or you should have to wear a mask into a store, so you act a goddamn fool. You ever seen the left act a goddamn fool? You don't think that left and all of its violent mobs are ready for your violence? Come on with it. You didn't know that these right-wing groups ended up in clashes with left-wing groups? You think you're the only one with guns and running around acting like you don't give a shit? You know? Nobody else give a shit. If you think you want a conflict, if you think you need a war, we're game. You the one got shit to lose. I'm black. What do I care? It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter if Hitler won in World War II. It doesn't matter if China takes over this country tomorrow. I'm in the same boat. I'm black. You've wasted being white in America, belly aching about shit that don't have nothing to do with you and isn't going to affect your life in one way or the other. You'll still be able to buy a house. You'll still have a job. I wouldn't spend any energy ever on any day complaining about anything if I was white. I would refuse to do it. When a white person decides to do that, that's how they become woke. That's how they become liberal. They look around to the other 97% of the world's population and go, well, all fucking things considered, I got it pretty good. All things considered. As they look around for who to trade places with, and they realize they don't find anybody, that's it. You worried about black neighbors, but it's like Chris Rock said in his show. He lives next door to a dentist. When a black person moves into your neighborhood, they're a class above you. You're not in the same class. You're a plumber with your own freaking van parked outside, and he's a hedge fund manager. And he should be living next door to the other hedge fund managers, but the banks will only give him half the loan. So he has to live next to you. So him and his family drove in this neighborhood and said, well, they only gave us $700,000. Bert at work said he got 1.4, and I'm his boss. And you're looking around, oh, there goes the neighborhood. Yep. The higher class blacks are coming to your blue collar, middle class white neighborhood. Just like in that episode of South Park where Will Smith moved in. So he went on with the joke, Chris Rock, that there's not a white person in the room that would trade places with him, and he's rich. Because there's still too much to give up just being a basic white person, that even if a black person has more than you, you still would be on the losing end. Because whatever tangible things a black person has, you're a haircut away from getting it. And sometimes not even that. Black people go in suits looking for mortgages and don't get them. And white people get mortgages in ripped up and dirty oil stained shirts. So you got your mind made up. The Jews will not replace us. But you're replacing yourself with this whole abortion deal. You didn't think it all the way out. You didn't work out the hypocrisy. You didn't tie it to how are we going to support kids once they're born. You know, it's Clarence Thomas is after every other privacy right, except the one that affects him, which is interracial marriage. Am I bashing interracial marriage? Nope. I'm inspired to make this video because I have 8 biracial children. There you go. 2 white women. So that's they didn't have an abortion. They had 8 black ass kids between them. There's books, there's everything you can Google right now for generations of white women who are going, how do I deal with this? As they're getting criticisms across the board. Family don't want them to bring in the black kids. Black people like, you don't know what the hell you're doing. You don't know nothing about being black. But that's the current dilemma. The identity struggles of biracial kids in this society and white mothers. You say, well, there's white guys having, yes, but that's black mothers. Black mothers know about being black. White mothers don't know anything about being black. So for all the white guys in interracial relationships, 1, they're still not a white baby. But 2, the identity crisis might not be as bad for the children if she ends up with them. Because when your children grow up biracial and try to blend into white society, and then they have white friends their whole life, and then it goes, skirt. You're not white. Skirt. You might not be able to date any of us. Or skirt. You definitely won't be able to marry and procreate. It's a reminder. It's not a choice for them of whether they're going to be black or white. They got 2 little buttons on there like on the computer, and 1 is grayed out. Are you black or white? I keep trying to click the white one. I grew up with my white mother in a white town, and yeah, that one's not available to you, Junior. So, I guess you could get rid of the 1-drop rule and expand white to biracial. That's the only thing left is times have changed. It could alleviate a lot of stress for white women who have to find out that their kids cannot be white even though they're white. But as far as increasing the white population or proportions by getting rid of abortion, you're going the wrong way. The absolutely wrong way. I heard a female congressman, I can't remember which one of these Looney Tunes it was, saying it's a Christian nation. It's not a Christian nation. I said, well, we think people are even talking about taking in God we trust off the money. They should. You got to. Should never been on there. How do I know? Because I'm Southern Black and Baptist. You got to take it off. Because just like there won't be a white majority, there won't be a Christian majority. What white people need to focus on is the same thing Christians need to focus on. Being fair and just right now, and make sure that the rules are fair and just. I can't put prayer in school. I can't leave in God we trust on the money. I can't. Because I have grandchildren. So, in 50 years, when the atheists are in control, and you go get a digital card from the bank, are they dealing with money that says there is no God? That's what happens when you deal with a majority. In 100 years from now, another generation has decided Satan was right. And the money says, in Satan we trust. Do you want that? That's why we have separation of church and state. Christians of all people spent 400 years as a sperm-drinking cult in caves need to understand we don't want persecution again. But you guys get drunk, just like the Supreme Court. Just get drunk. We got the power and you go nuts. Got DeSantis going nuts. Got Trump talking crazy. Got the Supreme Court acting like some mullahs or something. You can't rule with your feelings. Your job is to interpret. It couldn't have been an easy guess that you would go bother the law because of your political leanings. That's not your job. But now, there'll be drive-through abortions because the court will swing again at some point. And since it no longer has any legitimacy, but you can't care about that. You're winning. You can't see far enough that you won't always be winning. You can't see far enough that you're going to vote for somebody in the next election or the election after that. And what if the other side decides? This is how you storm the Capitol and stop the votes. And are successful. You're like, oh, it's a cold day in America. No, it's tourist. Remember tourists? Who climb on the side of the building and bring baseball bats and smear feces on the walls and threaten the members and try to disrupt the ceremonies? You know, those kind of tourists. How many elections are you away before that's BLM or Antifa? Well, we'll put our guy in and then... No one's going to accept your guy. You didn't accept my guy, I'm not going to accept your guy. He's ruined democracy. Every vote, every election will be questioned. I love how they have questions about 2020, are satisfied that they held on and prevented a Democratic majority in the Senate, gained seats in the House, and think there's a problem with it. Yeah, I think there's a problem with it. There probably should be 15 more Democrats in the Senate and an overwhelming majority in the House based on the extra 7 million votes. Or was it 11? 7, can't remember now. Yeah, there should be a lot more Democratic gains than that. I'm as suspicious as you are. Or how they're having Republican primaries, and you're like, oh, the Trump back guy. How you know that? The machines are all fake. There's discrepancies. Somehow, when there's elections that you don't mind or produce the results you like, there's nothing to question. You know they're using machines in the Republican primaries, right? And whatever they tell you the result is for that, no question. It must be how it is. That's how many votes there were. They counted them, and that's who ended up with the most. How are all the Republicans who had to run in 2020 back in the Senate? How are new Republicans in the House? How do we know they won against their Democratic challengers? Democratic incumbents and everything. How do we know? Oh, we know that. We know the gains by Republicans are legitimate. We know DeSantis won. We know Kemp won. And those are much more questionable circumstances than losing by millions of votes. But you can believe what you want to. But I'm advising you to think it all the way out, because I'm on your side. And nobody else is going to tell you. Dumbass fake news used to say, we report, you decide. Now they do is tell you what to think. Just show the hearings. If it's bullshit, you'll figure that out. But they won't tell you and shape it for you. Watched the interview yesterday with Jesse. 10 things on the banner while the man was talking. It's a Hollywood production. It's all meaningless. It's all point. I mean, just subliminal messages. You couldn't just say, hey, we disagree with it. They're making snarky remarks. You know who's at January 6th? Liz Cheney and all the Republicans from the Trump administration are testifying. There's no liberal plot. This big smoking gun came from Mark Meadows' assistant, who was in the room when it happens. The police who were overrun. You know, because you back your blue. Well, you backed them in to the stairs and into the thing, and got the blonde-haired white cop saying she was slipping in people's blood and knocked unconscious. You don't give a fuck about her. Fuck her. You don't give a shit about cops or white women or no damn body else when you want your way. Fuck them. Yeah, you backed your blue really good that day. Yeah, fund the police. I'm for funding them. Fund some more Capitol Police. And if you want to fund police, fund your police. We don't live in the same spot. Y'all get suburbs. Y'all get your own school districts. You get your own police departments, fire departments. You don't want to share with nobody. What are you worried about? You don't live in the urban center. You don't live in the city proper. Fund your police till you're blue in the face. What are you worried about? Some city somewhere else funding the police. You don't live in Cleveland proper. You don't live in Detroit proper. You live in your enclave. Fund that one. Give them tanks. Tell them to be more aggressive. Have them shake down your teenagers walking home. Have them beat in your windows and kick in your doors and pour automatic weapons at everybody, seeing if there's any drugs in the house. Do that all you want to. Militarize them where you live. Fund them where you live. I don't understand Democrats worrying about defunding the police when that's what your constituents want. What are you worried about constituents who don't live in your district want? Why are you worried about that? They want to fund their police, they can fund their police. I'm not funding a gang. I'm not funding thugs. I'm not spending money in the police department asking people who carry a gun, whose job it is to deal with criminals, to be social workers. according to you and everybody else, they got enough on their plate. Somebody else needs to go about non-violent situations. Somebody else needs to go in if there's drug use or any other issues. They have not been equipped. They've been all taught they're going off like they're going into a war somewhere, and be prepared and be on edge and keep shooting people that are unarmed. And then everybody that is armed, that they hear shooting, they stay outside and wait, or take them into custody. They can't take unarmed people in custody when they're black, but they can take armed white people into custody. And until they get that right, if they want the blue flu, you're fired, because we need to hire a new culture of cops who don't get into it for these medieval racist ass reasons. If they're not going to respond to actual crime, because if they do something wrong, they can get in trouble, that's all they do, is go after people who do something wrong. They shouldn't have to worry about if they do something wrong, they'll be in trouble. That's what the hell the cops tell me if I do something wrong. And what else do they tell me? If you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about. And that's a lie. I'm black. If you're a cop, if you're doing something wrong, you may or may not get in trouble. And if you're not doing anything wrong, you definitely won't get in trouble. If it's bad apples, weed them out. Mistreat them. Kick them out. Gang up on them. Create a process to get rid of them. From bringing down your brand and your name. Stop using those as the shining beacon of what you are, and then somebody says that's what you are, and then be like, not all of us. Well, y'all sure are rallying around this motherfucker like he's emblematic of who you are. You're not going to any great lengths to distance yourself. So don't tell me that's not how all of you are when you're all backing up and supporting this person and quitting the police force if that person is punished for doing wrong. What's wrong with you? Can't come out here and play failed wannabe soldier. You want to be a soldier? We have a military. We are the largest military. You ain't got to run around shooting kids with cell phones. There's motherfuckers around this world waiting on your ass. Believe me. You want to go do that shit with ISIS or Boko Haram, somebody like that? You want to see if you can go get some compliance out of them? Don't sit around here in a civilian environment and harass kids. Or everyday civilians going about their business, beating up on and bullying them. Join up. I don't want to hear about your hip and your feet and nothing else. You can get in. If not, I don't know, become a mercenary. Do something where you can actually fight in a battle with combatants, with people that can shoot back. Don't sit around in neighborhoods. Or if you just have to do it in neighborhoods to unsuspecting unarmed civilians, go do it in white neighborhoods. Looking for drugs and stuff? I know a zillion college campuses in this country where you could shake down and point automatic weapons and bring tanks up on the lawn of kids. I know a zillion suburbs in this country where you can go look for drugs. And drive your tanks up and down their streets all day and night. You can go kick in as many doors and beat in as many windows as you want to. You can drag as many people out of their car for minor traffic violations. Do all of those jackboot thug techniques in your own neighborhood where you grew up. Do it to your own family and friends. If that's how you understand police are supposed to work, go work there. I don't understand why police go to the city when there's a police department where you came from. You want to go somewhere you can be a thug. I'm not paying thugs. If somebody's trapped in the inner city with crime, there's enough thugs. We're trying to get rid of thugs. We're not trying to add on to the thug population. You locking up one thug and you out here beating up people and stealing drugs and doing the same shit that we just got rid of him for. It's stupid. If you're a good cop, be a good cop. There's plenty of good cops. Those are the ones who need to distance themselves and make the bad cops a pariah. I live in a place with good cops. I call the police right now and take them 40 minutes and they're seeing one dude. See what I want. Okay. But I know every neighborhood isn't like that. I've lived in neighborhoods that are not like that. And I'm encouraging those cops to be like the cops I have. The cops you trust. Everybody's entitled to that type of policing. How can we help you? Are you in danger? Can we assist you? Not to roll around like bandits. White race, get rid of race. When I say I'm African American, you ask me why can't I just be American? Because you're white. When you get rid of white, we'll all just be American.